Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Today we're gonna finish the Surface Pro 4 for our Canadian friend. So this was the one we worked on previously, and we did a SSD transplant, new battery, the heatsink replacement, and the antennas. Actually, I had to replace the antennas twice. So this was the original one, right? So yeah, this antenna is good. This one has been ripped off. This is likely, I think this would be a Bluetooth, 'cause it's kind of short. Maybe this one's Bluetooth, who knows? But we have three antennas here, 1, 2, and 3. So this one was ripped off, so I replaced it with this one. Then I noticed that it's ripped over here, it's cracked, and over here as well. I didn't see that when I was putting this on, because it was still a little, there was still a little adhesive left on it. So finally the third one. This one's definitely good. I inspected it very well. It's good, because here's the problem. So with this one, we agreed with the customer that we're gonna leave it like this, right? So it boots into system and says that you need to reset your PIN, and it asks you to log into your Microsoft account. So from there, I think the user should be able to handle everything. And the data will remain on the SSD, because that is the customer's preference. The negative side of this is that I can't really test it thoroughly, like to make sure that the microphone, cameras, and all that works. But I did thorough visual inspection. So I think everything should be fine, and it boots to Windows, the sound works, touchscreen works, Wi-Fi works. I didn't check the Bluetooth, but speakers, everything seems to be working. So let's put it back together and have it sent to the customer. Now, the most time-consuming part of it is, as you can see, to clean the frame from all the residue from the previous adhesive. I also had to replace the speaker membrane over here, or the whatever it's called. It's not a membrane. It's like this little mesh that covers the speaker. It was melted on the other one, and I'm not sure when that happened, but I guess it was one of the early ones that I was working on, and I just put too much heat for too long. But as far as the adhesive, I actually usually use this, and this is 3M regular double-side tape. It's pretty strong, it's black, it's relatively thick, it works great on these. On smaller areas, I use this one. This one's even thinner, more narrow, and thinner. This works great too, but with these I need to put multiple strips of it, and this one is wide enough that a single strip will work. But for this one, I'm gonna use these. So these are pre-cut for Surface Pro, and this fits Surface Pro 7, because I used it on Surface Pro 7 and Surface Pro 4. So I'm thinking 5, 6, all those should work as well. So it's relatively universal. However, it is relatively expensive. It's like $5 for this, right? And you get, for $5 you get the whole roll of regular adhesive. But look how wide this is. So see, it fills pretty much the entire space over here, and it's pre-cut for, I don't know, for all this stuff over here. So it's definitely more convenient, but more expensive. If you do enough of these, and let's face it, if you do Surface Pro 4s, you're not making too much money. So every little cent that you can save is significant. Okay, you want to stay away from the frame, because if you go too close to the frame, this screen will not sit properly. You also don't want to cover anything. Alright, the microphone here, the light sensor, cameras, and whatever this is. No, I guess this is light sensor. This is, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we don't want to cover it. Okay, and that is perfect. Now the bottom. Now, until today, actually, I have only been using PayPal or eBay for the payments. All right, because this is one of the questions I get, or the conversations that I have with other repair shops. It usually revolves around, what tools we use and what software we use, right? So one of the issues you might have is how to accept payments from your clients. So I've been using PayPal. That works, it works well. It's usually there are no issues, but there are cases, the majority of my customers are, well, they're not kids. Let me say it that way, right? Usually the kids don't acquire services from me. So not everybody has PayPal. Which one's which? Just a second. This one. Okay, because you don't want to mix the left one and right one. And once you stick it on, you can't really remove it. And so, yeah, definitely make sure you stick it on right. Anyways, PayPal. Yeah, it works, but sometimes it's a little bit more problematic. So I've had multiple customers either sending me checks in the mail or sending me cash in the mail. Which also is great. I love cash, but it's not very scalable. And as I said, for some reason, some people have problem with PayPal, and I really don't care why. If you can do PayPal, that's fine. We're gonna do something else. But what else can we do? So this weekend, I spent the whole weekend working on the payment system, which will be released probably today. So for this computer, the customer will likely use my new payment system. What is my new payment system? Well, I use, as a ticketing system, I use HESC. It's free. And it works. It's extremely legacy, because I was looking for something that is written in PHP, something that I can self-host. Why PHP? Before you say that's not a language, well, I've been it hasn't been back in the day, and it was never supposed to be a language, but we came a long way from then, and now it is a language. It is a legitimate language, programming language. And PHP happens to be a language that I've been working in for quite a few years, and this is, I work in PHP right now. And yeah, I know, that's, don't call yourself a software engineer if you work in PHP. But I also work in other, or at least used to work in other languages. So I do call myself a software engineer, okay? um, but this one, the Hask, is like extremely legacy. It's basically PHP 4 compatible. Well, it's not obviously anymore, but it was written as such. It was probably written in PHP 4. PHP 4 is like a really legacy stuff. There was no. This was basically the whole system is kind of like a set of scripts. All right. If you're interested, I'll show you exactly what it looks like and how I modified it. Because the first thing that I modified in mine was to use the SendGrid API using the API key instead of using the POP3 credentials or SMTP credentials, right? I mean, you can still set it up in SendGrid to use it as as a server, so you can use systems like that. But for some reason, it wouldn't work. I didn't dig too much into it. And I figured, well, I've been using SendGrid using the API keys for a long time. So I'll just modify Hask to use SendGrid API keys. And that was pretty much the only modification I made to the system. And then I started working on additional module that you just kind of connect to your Hask. Because regardless of how legacy and crappily it is written, it's not really easy to maintain systems like that. But it works. It's pretty fast because it doesn't have all that stuff that we typically do nowadays. The router middlewares, a lot of stuff happening in the abstraction before you even get to the controller action or what have you. So it is really fast. It is very simple to use. It's very lightweight. Extremely lightweight for what it can do. And it works. It does everything you would need from a ticketing system. So there's really not much more that you need. However, now what I need is ability to do payments. But first, I figured I'm going to put a CRM around it. I do have a CRM, but right now, to actually use it, lately I rarely use it. But to use it, I would have to just manually copy the customer data from the ticketing system to the CRM. I keep the conversations like in the CRM and all that stuff. And actually, my CRM is not connected to the email service, so I can't do any campaigns or anything like that from there, or communicate with the customers using the CRM, which is something I should be doing. But the Hask also gives you this ability to converse with the client. You see which responses the client has seen, and you receive a message of something you fixed 2 months ago, and you have a ticket number. You pull up the ticket and you see the whole history. What was the deal with that device, right? So I figured, yeah, let's connect the CRM to it. But as I started doing it, as I started coding that, it just turned out to be a lot more work than, I don't know, the work that the reward is not exactly worth all that work. You know what I mean? It's kind of because it's not only the work that goes into producing the software, it's also the maintenance you gotta do, especially if you release it to the public. And obviously, I want that to be open source. I want to give it to you guys absolutely for free. You can download it and you can hook it up to your Hask. But if you do that, then I'm responsible for maintaining it. So I gotta maintain the security updates, and that alone, I do that at work. That alone takes some time and effort. That alone, and on top of that, you have to develop the system. So I kind of put it on the back burner. But recently, I figured if it's such a hassle, why don't I just allow the customer to use the credit card on my website? So I set out to do just that. So I considered PayPal or Stripe. Why those two? Actually, I consider a few others. Where I work, we do a lot of sales through the website, and I developed the payment gateways that actually handle all that. So you might say I have plenty of experience working with payment gateways, payment processors. The reason I picked either PayPal or Stripe is because, well, I have a PayPal account. So I've been using PayPal just for direct transactions. So I figured, well, how about I just use what I already have? But then I considered the costs, and PayPal appears to be significantly more expensive in use, especially once you cross certain thresholds. So I figured, let's do Stripe. Stripe is a maybe less expensive. It's still, hefty fees that you pay on each transaction. And if you refund the customer, you still pay for those fees. So if someone buys something from you for 100 times and asks for a refund 100 times, you're suddenly like $50 down, or a few $100 down on the fees alone. Industry standard, unfortunately. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I would understand if they charged you the fee, their cost, right? So if the transaction fee is, say, 50 cents on this transaction, and it was refunded, so instead of 50 cents, you pay 5 cents or 3 cents or something like that. So just to cover, because the transaction actually happened, so the provider, the payment processor, must have paid a little bit for that transaction. So okay, pass that cost on to me, but only that cost. Don't make money off of transactions that, especially since it's a percentage of the transaction. It's like 2.9%, something like that. So call it 3%. So out of $100, that's $3 that I have to pay to the payment processor. But then if I return that money, then why are you charging me based on the amount? I understand I pay you the percentage of what I made, so I just kind of share my success with you because I'm using your platform to accept the payment. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. But if I don't get that money because I had to refund it, then I'll just pay for your trouble. Don't charge me based on the money I never received. Because it makes zero difference to me if that was a $50 transaction or $5,000 transaction. I still didn't get the money. So why do I pay, $50 on that transaction? Because it was a high transaction, right? Uh, Big price, high price. Um, so yeah, that's I got a problem with that. But on the other hand, there's nothing I can do. So I think Stripe actually is the Stripe is an easy one because it comes with a really comprehensive documentation. There's plenty of tools, SDK. You get beautiful SDK from Stripe. You can build your wrappers around that one. Everything's pretty well documented, and then the console, the tools that they provide. You can, when you log into the backend, you can not only see financial breakdown and charts and stuff, but also each transaction you see all the events, the whole JSON. You see what kind of data was provided from your system, then what kind of data was sent back to your system as a confirmation that this transaction took place. Because the transaction, I'm not using the embedded version, I'm using the hosted version. So when you go to my website, you click the button checkout, proceed to payment, you're redirected to Stripe. Then Stripe does its thing. It takes your financial information and credit card number, all that, and then it just sends the confirmation back to me that you paid, right? So my system never processes any financial data. That's very important because for me to actually do that, to store your credit card information or your sensitive information, I need to be PCI compliant. To be PCI compliant, well, I need to get the compliance certificate, right? So this is something that I do at work, so I know how it works. Unfortunately, I don't know how much it cost. How much does it cost? But I'm guessing it's a hefty price. And I don't do a lot of business. I don't have a lot of business, and when I do, I give people like really low prices. So I don't make a lot of money on this, so I can't really afford to get any professional, to treat it as a professional system that I need to maintain. For that reason, I'm using Hask because it's free, self-hosted. I have my own infrastructure that I use for other projects, or at least used to use, and I have one live project that doesn't seem to want to die, which is unfortunate. It's kind of like it's an unfortunate success, right? Something you never intended to be successful suddenly becomes successful, but you didn't make it in a way that it would allow you to maintain it. So I have big problems there. I mean, it's kind of running itself, but at this point, I should do a lot of stuff to it to make it safe. But it does work, and so anyways, I have my infrastructure, so I can host all the stuff that I need, and I have know-how and expertise to get it done. So I don't need to pay anybody for a cloud service where I would have my ticketing system, which would be great, because then I would have my emails wouldn't be going into the spam folder, which they do now, and they also offer like phone lines and recording. So if someone calls in regards to the ticket, then the recording is attached to the ticket, and then you can listen through the conversation you had with the customer, or your employee had with the customer. So that is great, but it makes sense if you do like a lot of work. you know, I assume this is something that Alex has, but he does so much business that yeah, it wouldn't make sense for him to invest time into working on the open source or free tools, right? He wants to pay money for the service and expect a professional service. And if you can afford that, that's the way to go. I can't, so alright, let's turn this baby on and see what it does. Okay, does the digitizer work? It does. Okay, and the network, yep, it's got network and everything. Alright, we're gluing it in. Now, so let me show you a quick thing. If you go to
make your computer easy
on-screen setting, on-screen keyboard, right? You click the shift will be held down, then you go to restart, and it'll go into recovery, right? And then you can just do troubleshoot and reset this PC, and it'll be a new PC. So we're sending it back to the customer, and hopefully the customer can take it from here. If not, we'll figure it out. Unfortunately, this is Canada, so sending back and forth is probably not the best option, but what are you gonna do? And now we just need to glue it on. And hopefully this will be the first customer that uses my own payment system to do the payment. And I also have one more. Who was that? That was a few. Oh yeah, that was the ECM. I actually got paid in cash for that one. I mean, bench fee was included in the box, but instead of $35, the 220s were included. So I got $5 tip. So then when I send it back, because the client is from Tennessee, so it's like 3-hour drive from me. I send it with UPS ground, and that cost me like $8, right? So I told the customer, don't worry about it. That $5 tip you gave me covers the majority of the shipping, so don't worry about it. It's all good. But the customer is also a small business owner, so he insists that he wants to pay, so I don't have to even throw in like those couple bucks or $4. So I will send him a link. So the way my payment system works is I send you a link. I do my internal payment request, right, attached to the ticket. And I can do multiple, right? Each one, like shipping, service, or maybe I did 3 things, or maybe I did one thing and then you requested something else in addition. So I have payment requests attached to the ticket. Then I send you that link, and that's it. You receive that link, you click on Pay Now, you're redirected to the payment page, the Stripe payment page, and you make a payment. You can use a credit card, debit card, you can use Google Pay, you can use Apple Pay, you can use even what was it called? Basically, get it now, pay later, something like that. If you so choose, I obviously do not recommend that, but that is an option. And I don't think I will ever do expensive jobs enough for you to warrant payment plan on it. But you have an option. So if you want like something really expensive from me, you have an option of doing payment plan on it. So that is great, right? And yeah, so this week the first payments will hopefully be acquired through my own payment system. I'm pretty excited about that, and especially since it took me only this weekend to produce. I mean, it still works in the test mode at the moment, meaning it's using the test keys, so no no real money is transferred, and you need to use test card provided by Stripe, the test card number. And if you try to put in the real credit card number or debit card number, it will not work. But I have the custom payments where you just go on the page and just click the button, make a payment, and you put in the price. You put in how much you want to pay. All right, so that is already working, and I already tested that, and I could technically switch it to production and send the link to the customer. But before I switch to production mode, I want to get the payment links working. And the reason is actually this library is because my payment system is not open source. It's a private repository, but I built a library that my payment system uses, and it's basically a very simple Stripe checkout wrapper. Actually, it's Stripe wrapper, Stripe API wrapper, but I'm using Stripe checkout. Stripe checkout is pretty cool because it requires you pretty much. It has very low requirements as far as the code goes. You just initialize the checkout session, and you get a link. You redirect the user to that link, and within that session, when you create that session, you set up the return URL back to your system. So it's simple as that. You create checkout session, you get the URL, and you redirect the user to that URL. Once the payment is successful, the user comes back to your website, and the only thing you get it set up is the webhook. So the Stripe can notify you that this transaction went through, because the redirection only, you can rely on that, because the Stripe will redirect back to your system, but that alone is not a confirmation that the payment went through. I mean, probably for the most part you can treat it as such, and and just figure out the problems as they appear, because for the majority of the payments it probably will work like that. But there is a case when Stripe validated it, but the card was declined or something like that. I don't know, for some reason the transaction was disputed, maybe, right, or something like that. Then you get that notification from the webhook, through the webhook, and act on it. So once you get actual checkout session complete, that's when the funds actually made it to your account. But that's pretty simple. There are other ways you can integrate with Stripe. You can create a payment intent. Then the checkout can be self-hosted, so you can render the checkout component on your site, so there's no redirection to Stripe, and it all happens in JavaScript. You can use payment intents. Either way, payment intent is involved in this process, but you can use payment intents directly and just create a payment intent, then redirect the user either to the your checkout component on your website, or redirect for the user to finish that payment. And then when when the user is redirected back to your site, you get the payment intent ID, so you can reach out to the API and confirm whether that payment intent has been paid, has been fulfilled. So there's few options. All of that is very well documented. It could be a little overwhelming. That's why if you guys need something like that, definitely reach out to me. This is the service that I provide. Or you can just download my library, and if you're interested, I'll do a video on how to use it. But most likely, I will not be doing coding on this channel. I have another channel that I haven't posted to in a couple of years, I guess. For some reason, there's still close to 200 subscribers still subscribed to that channel, even though it doesn't post anything. But that's probably where such content would go. I don't want to bore my regular viewers with coding, because, well, let's face it, who likes coding? Well, I used to, until it was my full-time job. I mean, for many years after that, I loved it, but now it's just a job. I don't mind it. I don't complain. You know, the fun of coding is only until you start working as a coder, because the whole fun of coding is that you work on what you want to work on, and you do some interesting stuff that interests you. Once you start working as a coder, you know, that's the end of your freedom. Now you have to work on stuff that you have to work. Also, you have to be diligent. You have to be professional. You can do sloppy code. You have to maintain certain level of unit testing. You have to maintain certain level of clean code, and, you know, be mindful of architecture, be mindful of security vulnerabilities. It's like a lot of stuff that you gotta consider, and the process is pretty long. When you start coding, or when you just do small projects, it's kind of rapid development. You know, it's more dynamic. You know, we keep working on stuff. You see the results immediately, pretty much, and which is the case usually for the PHP language. The one huge advantage of it is that you have immediate feedback. You can have your code on one screen and browser on the other screen. You change something on left screen, refresh on the right screen, and you see the results immediately. So there's no compilation process, no, you know, complex deployment or linking or anything like that. In other languages you don't have that. In some other languages, but, you know, languages like Python is pretty much the same thing. And in many ways they're similar when it comes, not the language, the syntax of the language. They couldn't be more different, but the ecosystem is very similar. So there's plenty of developers that do both PHP and Python, and they just kind of go hand to hand. But in the where PHP shines is that rapid development, and that is what is exciting. That is what you like to do as a coder. And then you start working as a coder. That changes. That is no longer. It's much more tedious process. It's much more boring process. Much more time consuming, and it's not effortless. And you don't have this motivation that you have when you work on your projects, right? You just kind of, you know, you just gotta sit, and especially when sometimes it's more of an investigative work. There's plenty of those, and that is something that I don't like the most. I mean, you know, usually it is when you encounter like well, whatever kind of bug. Sometimes or usually it's like one-liner, or like small change somewhere, right? A simple fix. But to find that bug, to find what's causing that bug, that could be hours, that could be days or weeks. Well, not weeks, okay, days at the most. I mean, if it takes you weeks to find a bug, that's no bueno. But the reason it can take even days is because the process of prepping your environment to attempt to reproduce it might take you a while. Sometimes you have to read through the code, kind of reverse engineer what's going on over there. Not every code is created equal. Sometimes you have to work with a legacy, really bad legacy code, like spaghetti code, right? So any kind of reverse engineering is very time consuming, and then of course you do wild goose chases during that process. So it can be very time consuming. That's the part I don't like is reverse engineering and reproducing issues. And I work with relatively complex system, so sometimes it does take me like pretty much the whole day to prep for even attempting to get the task done. I have to like build the ecosystem to kind of reproduce that. It's like one time thing. I have actually a few months ago, I had more time, so I jumped on this journey of let's get my local environment prepped so I can reproduce anything anywhere, and that took a few days to get that done. But that was one time, and now I have a very nice complex local environment that I can reproduce a lot of things. But sometimes you can reproduce it locally. It doesn't work in production, or it doesn't work in staging, or in both, but it works locally. What is the problem? Then I'm searching through logs, trying to, because you don't always get all the information you need to find it in logs. Usually you do, but then still, the logs are always heavily polluted for many reasons. Too much debug information, warnings and notices on the page being logged. Stuff that is not game breaking, but it does report to logs. That kind of stuff. It's not great sometimes, and but it is what it is. Anyways, let's. Oh, yeah. Okay, it doesn't look pretty. Sorry. It doesn't look pretty, but this is anti-static bag, and we're gonna wrap it up nicely. Let's see, we should be able to wrap it up like this. Yeah. Alright, that'll do. But first, I'll wrap it in some bubble wrap to fill the box nicely. We have two cushions here, because what I want is the box not to be big. Well, nothing I can do about how heavy it is, but I want the box to be big because this is going to Canada. So, the size matters when it comes to the price of shipping. Anyways, that'll do. Alright, I will have it shipped today, and I'll send you the payment link to my new payment system, but probably to custom payment, because I don't think I'm gonna be able to actually finish the payment links today. because I also have plenty of other stuff to work on. And that's something that usually I should only be working on weekends, because I don't really get paid for that. And I can't use my time that I get paid for other stuff to work on this. That would be disingenuous. And I don't want to spend my evenings. The main reason I actually even do the repair shop um, is because before, I spend pretty much all day coding, right? That's what I do. I don't manage people. I don't have to do any, charts analysis and stuff. Sometimes I have to write technical requirements and do, like some planning or something like that. Some design work, that kind of stuff. But usually it's just I get my list of tickets and I need to burn through them. So I just spend all my all day coding. So naturally, I would like to do something different to just kind of so I don't burn out. Before, I was doing a contracting work after work. So I would be doing coding all day at work. Then I would be doing coding all day, all evening after work, and on the weekends and stuff. Great money, don't get me wrong. It's awesome money because, as a contractor, I get paid anywhere from 60 to even $120 an hour. Great money. But it comes at a great cost as well. And that leads to a very quick burnout. And after a few months of working like that, yeah, I repaired my budget significantly. I started saving money, so that was great. But my mental health went way down. That was not a fun time. So I decided I will not be doing contracting work. My last contract I had was a very small one, and that was some modifications on the website. That was WordPress website with I think PayPal checkout, and they just wanted some prices changed and stuff like that. I did all that, and the customer decided not to pay me, so he would ghost me, right, for like a week. So I reached out to the mediator. There was nothing really significant nothing useful from the mediator. So, so I just sabotaged the website. I just changed one byte on the server, just so I can quickly, fix it once I get paid. So once I did that, the server would be crashing. So that's when the customer, after like 10 emails I wrote him, like, dude, where's my money? What's going on? Why are you ghosting me? And then as soon as I sabotaged the website, he reached out to me. Oh, yeah. How do I get you paid? And I think the price was like 150. So I told him, well, now the price is 350 because you tried to scam me. You tried to get out of the paying your bill. So now this is the price. But I finally went down to, okay, 150, fine. I didn't want to be too harsh on him. I could tell this was like kind of a young fella. I just kind of probably chewed a lot more than he could chew. So I understand that. I've been there. So I'm not gonna give him problems. He paid. I reverted the website, or reverted one byte on the server, and that was pretty much end of that story. But I'm guessing he gave me like really bad review or something like that. Very possible. Kind of despicable because he initiated the situation, and me sabotaging his website, or not even his website, was a result of that. But I guess he did not. He was not accountable, so he probably just did what young kids do, just blame everyone around them. So he probably gave me a really bad review, and since then I haven't really had many. Well, that was my last contract, so I haven't had any contracts, but not that I was looking for them. But usually I would have people reach out to me, and since then I don't really, which is good. But I'm thinking I'm just correlating those two events that he probably tarnished my reputation a little bit. And so also because of that, I figured, for 150 bucks, all this, no, it's just not worth it. Yeah. And I always try to give people like really reasonable prices, and that was the case with this guy. But it's just, if I give you, if I cut you a slack, I give you really good prices and I give you a premium service because I also did the analysis, the security analysis of the site, pointed out some significant security vulnerabilities. That alone is few $100s an hour for the security advisor. Um, so I cut you a slack and I give you a premium service, and then you decide not to pay me. No, that's I don't even want to deal with that. I probably shouldn't even have. I probably should have just waived that 150 bucks and write it off and cut my losses. But so probably that wasn't the best thing I did. But that's the main reason I don't do contracting anymore. And instead, I just do my coding at work, and after work, I just do repairs, and that keeps me leveled. That kind of keeps both professions kind of I don't burn out in either one. I don't do a lot of repairs. Well, I do a lot of coding, but not more than my job requires me to. And whenever I feel I'm getting burned out or something, I have crap load of PTO. Actually, my PTO stopped accruing anymore because I'm capped, and so now my PTO is not really being added to my balance, and only like a little bit of it can be carried over to the next season, next year. You don't get all of it from the last year. So if you don't use it, you lose it. So I'm planning the vacation, my first vacation in a few years, and I would love well, what I would love, because my wife kind of prefers mountains, and there's beautiful mountains up in northern Georgia, Tennessee, Appalachians. Very beautiful scenarios there. We've been there a few times. Very nice. I prefer Florida, Panama City. It's also just like 5 hours away from me, 5.5 hour drive, and we're on the coast. And especially before the season, you can get pretty good deal on Airbnb. Well, weather-wise, it's kind of a gamble. That's why it's cheaper before the season, because you gotta be lucky as far as the weather goes. But I'm thinking, if I get good deal on stuff, I'm thinking like 2 weeks. That would be my first 2 week vacation since I can't even remember last time I had 2 week vacation. So it's gonna be like the first one in a really long time. So pretty excited about that. And so the shop will be closed for about 2 weeks. I mean, you can still submit the ticket, and you can probably, well, don't send anything yet, because everything here is delivered to the Amazon lockers, and they stay in there for, I don't remember how long, but it's only like few days, 4 or 5, maybe 6 days, that it stays in the locker, and then it shipped back if you don't if you don't pick it up. So definitely don't send it, but you can still submit a ticket. We can still converse. The shop technically will be closed as far as the repairs, but I will still be available for consult. So no worries there. Alrighty, fellas. I hope this was interesting. Yeah, very little value as far as the repair, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of update on the shop. And as I said, if you are in need of a ticketing system with the payment system, I have a solution. It will be published. I mean, the library is already published. But it's not finished yet. There's very little unit testing, which is kind of unusual for me. And everything, if you just estimate that you want to do something within a weekend, you just have to, cut some corners. Because it's the, it's the result that matters, right? So I kind of cut a lot of corners on that, but if there's any interest from the community, I will put in more time into it. It's completely free. You can download it. The same with Hesk, and you just need to configure my library to use the. Actually, the library doesn't use the database, but maybe my payment system will also be available as open source, and that's where you just connect to Hesk database and run migrations. It'll create 2-3 tables in addition to Hesk tables, and it just kind of imports the stuff from Hesk to read the tickets and that kind of stuff. It's very simple. It's very primitive technology, but it works. It's good. And I'm pretty excited about it because now I don't have to pay, because through eBay I pay a lot. Plus I send 10% to charity. With my Stripe payments, I pay about 3%, 2.9%, something like that. Plus like 20 cents or something like that on each transaction, and I contribute 0.5% of everything to fighting a global warming or removing CO2. I don't know what exactly they do with that 0.5%, but I'll let them worry about it. There's no process that removes the CO2 from the atmosphere that I'm aware of. and before you say trees, no, they're like batteries. They will take the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and as long as they're alive, it's removed. But then they die, and they release that carbon dioxide back. So no, trees don't remove carbon dioxide. No. So there's no known process that actually removes carbon dioxide and is net positive. Because there are processes you can use carbon dioxide to infuse into something, like they were doing these phone cases that supposedly took the carbon dioxide out of it. Yeah, but it only technically was true. It was still net negative, so you still produce more carbon dioxide to create those phone cases that supposedly reduced a little bit of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So if it's net negative, then it's still pointless. So yeah, so I'm not sure what they are doing with my 0.5%, but not my problem. I'm doing my part, right? 0.5% of, so like 50 cents on $100, right? Yeah. Well, this will do. Thank you, fellas, very much for watching. I see we did an hour. Yeah, let me see if I can reduce that into a little shorter video. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.